Welcome to Timeball Games. I'm ELD, here to ask you for help in growing the channel. When we reach 2,500 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a custom leather playmat to one lucky subscriber. So be sure to like and subscribe. Hey everyone, back with some more spoilers. You guys seemed to like the video yesterday, so I wanted to keep up with all of these core 21 cards that are coming out fast and furious as the set release is coming up. Big thank you to Dave, one of my locals, who helped out with the audio and video. I think it is a lot better, so say thanks to him in the comments if you appreciate the work there. I think it's going to be a big improvement for future videos here. And let's just jump right in. Chandra, Heart of Fire, a 5 casting cost Planeswalker. Bars pretty high when you get to 5 mana. Deseret was essentially a 1-card combo to win the game in Vintage when he came out, and Jace the Mind Sculptor ended up supplanting him, even though he doesn't win the game because he's 4 mana. He comes down earlier, and 5 is just an awful lot to ask. Pretty solid though for formats like Commander. Plussing here, you're going to discard your hand and then exile the top 3 of your library and then play any of those exiled cards that you want. You have to pay the mana, but you're essentially drawing 3 cards a turn. Very impressive for going Hellbent, and also has some potential synergy with anything that you actually want to be discarding. Also has a +1 to do 2 damage to any target, kind of standard Chandra fare. And then her -9 is search your graveyard and library for any number of red instants or sorceries, exile them, then shuffle your library, and you can cast them this turn. Add 6 red. So, I mean, probably kills somebody. You can get a bunch of lightning bolts and similar cards to just completely take somebody out. And that's kind of what you'd expect out of a 5-mana Planeswalker. It's got to do really good things. The fact that it can show up and handle the board a little bit is nice. But 5 mana is a big ask. Could end up being really good in Standard, but for our older formats, the bar is really high for a 5-mana spell. Chandra's Incinerator is a very interesting card. This is actually the card that made me want to go ahead and record another one of these today so soon. A 6-mana 6/6, and it costs X less, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. We're talking cards like Lightning Bolt, Lava Spike, Chain Lightning. Anything like that is taken 3 off the top of this card. You could potentially be playing this on turn 2, maybe even sooner, depending on how much acceleration you have in your deck. And that is a huge body, and one thing that Burn has had in the past is a bunch of very small creatures. Of course, you need them to come down early, but this is a potential turn 3 play, turn 2 if there's some free spells involved. You go turn 1, suspend Rift Bolt, untap, Rift Bolt them, Lava Spike them, Incinerator. I mean, this card merits some consideration. I'm impressed with it. And then on top of it, it's got Trample, and whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or Planeswalker that player controls. So you're going to be able to keep their smaller creatures off the board, effectively turning everything into Searing Blazes. I don't know. I might be a Timmy, but I am actually kind of excited about this card. Bolt Hound, interesting card for limited, notable in that, so it has haste. It's a 2/2 for 3, that's all fine. Whenever it attacks other creatures you control, get +1/+0 until end of turn. Not quite Battle Cry, if you remember that mechanic from back in Mirrored and Besiege. That would give it to all other attacking creatures. Interesting choice. It's a little bit cleaner. Does give all of your creatures that, so just threw that in there because Battle Cry was a mechanic and they did something really similar, but decided to kind of clean it up a little bit, which I think is probably best for those type of interactions. Here is a card that is going to make some waves. A lot of people are going to be very excited about this. This is called See the Truth. It's a sorcery. You look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, the rest on the bottom in a random order. If you cast it from anywhere but your hand, then you put all 3 into your hand instead. People that play Hearthstone have noticed that Magic has been kind of taking any good ideas that they have for quite a while now, several development cycles. We've been seeing things kind of creep in there. I think that's actually a lot of what we saw with companions. I think those were kind of a attempt to replicate some of the things that Hearthstone can do, where they can always start the game with a certain card in your hand. And this is similar to the discovery mechanic or discover mechanic in Hearthstone, where there'll be certain conditions where if it's, turn 10, or if you have 10 mana crystals in that game, instead of keeping one of the cards, you'll keep all three. So this is probably a sign that they're going to keep trying to take any good ideas that Hearthstone has, which I don't think is a bad idea. But this one's exciting and powerful. 3 cards, that's Ancestral Recall level. When you're talking about Snapcaster Mage to flash this back, when you're talking about cascading into it with something like Shardless Agent, not bad. It's very, very interesting. So I think this one's going to certainly be played. We'll see how good it ends up being, but people have to experiment with this card. When you're talking about the potential to be running 4 Ancestral Recalls in your deck, man, that card advantage can be an absolute sledgehammer, and interesting art as well. This is just the goodest boy. It's kind of a sad card. I just included it because the art is hilarious, but it's actually kind of dark. This 1/1 for 1 is willing and ready to be sacrificed to protect another creature. If you sacrifice it, it gives another creature indestructible. We'll see what the card ends up being named, but I mean, that is just the goodest boy. Look at that tongue hanging out. Just tragic. Elder Gargaroth, sure. It's a beast, 6/6 for 5. Those are some massive stats, especially for limited. Vigilance, Reach, Trample, that is going to dominate the board. And whenever it attacks or blocks, you choose one, make a 3/3 beast, gain 3 life, or draw a card. Don't be surprised if this sees a lot of play. I think even a deck like Nickfit in Legacy could consider this, with the ability to draw cards, further commit to the board, or gain life. I mean, all of those modes are useful in different situations, and options can win games. I mean, card advantage is really about the amount of options that you have and the amount of things that you can do. And this guy does an awful lot for 5 mana as a creature. I mean, the decks that are designed to get creatures on board are going to be at least considering him. As well as decks that run Green Sun Zenith. There's a lot of competition now with Euro and so many of the powerful green creatures, but this one I'm interested in. Primal Might, definitely a card that people will be losing to in Limited. Target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn. Then it fights up to one target creature you don't control, so you're basically going to make a giant creature for a turn, kill their best creature, and then they're probably going to have to chump block, if not just die to this card. So that's one that you're going to be hoping to get in your pre-release pool, and that is about it. I don't anticipate that seeing any play anywhere else, but that is a really powerful limited rare. So hopefully you're playing for some good enough prizes to make up for the fact that you're pulling cards that aren't worth anything. We've got a bunch of starter deck Planeswalkers. The Planeswalker decks are back. These are products that at first I was pretty resistant to as a store owner. I've been encouraging people to buy individual cards my entire history for Magic. It was obvious to me very early on how brutal it is to try and go the serial route, where you're opening cereal boxes hoping to collect all of the figures. I mean, you're just paying through the nose. Like, you're getting diabetes too, but I mean, it's crazy how many boxes of cereal you need to open if you've got like 30 different figures and you're trying to get one of each. So when you're talking about these Planeswalker decks, they kind of encourage people to buy booster packs because that's rolled into the price. But what I really didn't get was how important it is for people to be able to have decks that function when they're first starting to play Magic. Things are different now than when I learned the game. When I came into this game as a young teenager, you really weren't ever in a situation where you were not surrounded by other people playing Magic. And now I think there's a little bit more isolation that can happen. You can play online. You can kind of have smaller play groups. And there are definitely times where people kind of make their own decks, and they don't really work, and they don't have that much fun, and it can be a barrier at the beginning. So the Planeswalker decks I've actually come around on. I think it's totally fine when people are starting to get these decks, play around with them, and it also keeps the focus on like combat and the board presence, which very often constructed Magic starts to stray away from that pretty quickly. I mean, if I start working with a casual player trying to build a deck and they're trying to stomp all of their friends, a lot of the time it ends up being some type of crazy combo deck, and these keep the attention on the fundamentals of the game. And let's just take a look at these Planeswalkers. They're generally made to be completely unplayable for Constructed, but sometimes they venture into being playable in Commander. So let's see here. Basri, I'm not sure how we say his name, Devoted Paladin, seems to be the new white Planeswalker. We no longer have Gideon. Now we have this guy, 6 mana, 4 loyalty, +1 to put a +1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. Is solid enough for like a sealed deck maybe, but 6 mana is just so high. You can minus to put +1/+1 counters on all of your attackers, and then his -6 is creatures you control get +2/+2 and flying. That ultimate will often win the game, and the ability to put +1/+1 counters on your entire team could see play in some token generation, but overall I think this one hits the mark of generally being unplayable outside the context of Planeswalker decks battling each other. Teferi, Timeless Voyager, again 6 mana for 4 loyalty. His +1, drawing a card, not the worst thing in the world. I personally enjoy drawing cards. It is a card game after all. -3, putting creature on top of their owner's library. One of my favorite cards from sideboards of all time is Submerge. It is a devastating effect. It's way better at instant speed, especially when you can respond to a shuffle effect. But that is a potent effect. And the -8 is each creature target opponent controls phases out until the end of your next turn, and they can't phase in. So, I mean, it does clear their board for a single player. Again, mostly just Planeswalker deck situation here. Liliana, Death's Mage, so many good Lilianas to pick from. You can practically go Liliana Tribal as a commander strategy at this point. Return 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That can have a lot of utility. It's basically drawing a card, but it's also got a little bit of a tutor effect because you get to choose which card from your graveyard. -3 to destroy a creature. Its controller loses 2 life. Also totally fine, especially for casual play. And then her -7 is target opponent loses 2 life for each creature card in their graveyard. When you're talking about casual play, people starting out, that is very likely going to kill them in a long drawn out game where you've been killing all of their creatures, as black mages are apt to do. We've got 6 mana here for Chandra's Flame Catalyst. This one comes in with 5 loyalty, and she can do 3 damage to each opponent for +1. A little bit better for multiplayer, so could be a little bit of a consideration for Commander, though that cost is super high. And the -2 essentially gives flashback. Its target instant or sorcery has to be read from your graveyard. You can play it this turn and then exile it. So basically giving a card flashback from your graveyard. And the ultimate, though, is something that is super spicy. I mean, discard your hand, draw 7 until end of turn. You can cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. I mean, that's a fun ultimate. I would not be surprised if this sees play at casual commander tables. Get her up to 8. You do a little proliferating, little doubling season, kind of cheat that ramp up a little bit, and then boom, draw 7, and then hopefully you're playing a type of deck that can draw more cards, that can play more cards from your hand without paying their mana cost, and really just go completely bananas. Essentially Wheel of Fortune tacked on to Omniscience. You should be getting there when you use this ultimate, and I think this may be the most fun of the batch, certainly so far. Garrick or Garuk, how do you guys say it? Garuk? I don't even know if Wizards usually uses the names in the trailers. I don't think they do. So let me know how you're supposed to pronounce that, or fight over that in the comments. I will enjoy that. +1, revealing the top card of your library. If it's a creature, it goes to your hand, otherwise goes on the bottom. That is an abysmal ability. I am not happy with that look at all. I would have much rather seen, I mean, oof, I don't even know, like some other thing, like if it's a land, put it into the battlefield. Or it's going to feel bad. Playing this card is going to feel bad for beginning players who buy this deck. Those, God bless their souls, those green mages. Lord knows one of my favorite cards when I first saw Magic was Force of Nature from back in, revised and limited. I think I saw a black bordered version, beta of that, and I was just totally impressed. Just that giant green creatures. What fun. What's not fun? Using the ability and getting nothing to show for it. All the other Planeswalkers are doing something with their +1. This guy, I mean, a third of the time, what are you running? 20 lands in a 60 card deck? I mean, you're going to be whiffing, and to pay 6 mana, put them down and whiff is a disaster. The -2 allows you to have target creature you control deal damage equal to its power to another creature. So you're fighting creatures on board. So again, not nearly as good as the other Planeswalkers where they, their minus would just kill a creature. Now you have to have a bigger creature in order to then kill their creature. So again, this guy really unimpressive for a Garruk Planeswalker, especially given how strong some of them have been in the past. And the -7 simply says creatures you control gain Thorn Elemental that can deal damage as though they weren't blocked. Yeah, this guy, not a fan. Not a fan of this one. That is, I mean, the only way you're going to win is if you literally have lethal on board anyways. This guy is a big whiff for me. I am not really happy with that Planeswalker, especially given, how popular green is with new players. I think a lot of them are going to be pretty disappointed with that. And we'll end here with the Spark Hunter Masticore. Masticore, one of the original contenders for best creature, came out at the time of Morphling and Palinchron, and it really depended on the type of matchups that you were playing, which creature would be best. Overall, Morphling was the kind of widely recognized king, but in super aggro metas, Masticore did a lot of work, and basically he was a 4-mana 4/4, and then at the beginning of each upkeep you had to discard a card. So they've rolled back the drawback way back. It's just as an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card. So you can weld this guy in from the graveyard, reanimate however you're going to return him without having the problem. He has protection from Planeswalkers, which provides some utility there. But great flavor. I mean, really excellent flavor. And then, of course, you can pay 1 to do 1 damage to target Planeswalker. So this guy's just going to be going after those Planeswalkers, especially when you're talking about things like Narset, which potentially sit around on board and provide a static ability. Things like Teferi, to be able to just ping them and get them out of there. Very interesting. And then the 3 mana to gain Indestructible is no small thing for a 3/4. I mean, a 3/4 can be a legitimate clock and can survive effects like Wrath of God, though at 3 mana, that is a significant amount of mana to be keeping open. Luckily, you can be just sinking that 1 mana in during the end step and just kind of pass to their turn with all of your mana up, making good plays, as primarily blue mages do. This card feels very blue despite its colorless cost. Again, thank you to Dave Scanlon for helping out with the improved video and audio. If you guys enjoy these videos, let me know in the comments. Let me know what else you'd like to see, as we're trying to expand a little bit what we're doing with the channel. Do you want to see a full spoiler breakdown once all of the cards are out, just a full set review? If so, let me know. If we get enough people interested in that, it's a ton of work. But what else am I going to do? The world's upside down right now. No organized play, so happy to do this for you guys. Thanks for watching. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.